podcast, episode 51. It is, it's January 2nd here. This is a Sunday at 2:58 p.m. podcast episode, which is not normal for us. But here we are, trying to get a couple last ones in for you guys to kind of close out the year, because technically speaking, our first one of the year wouldn't start until Thursday. So this is still, in my mind, a 2021 podcast episode.
We're living in the past.
Which means, here's the thing, right? We did 51 episodes.
Yep.
I wanted to do 52. I take the responsibility for that, you know? There was one podcast that I was supposed to make up on my own, tried to do it, couldn't finagle all of the cameras and the computer and everything myself. I dropped the ball on it. I'm making excuses for it. Next year will be 52 of them.
Hey.
But here we are. That's not bad considering on vacation total throughout the year for like fucking 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Making them all up where we needed to make them all up. I think it's pretty good still.
Yeah. I mean, you had a honeymoon. It's okay.
You know?
It
is, but it isn't, though.
Yeah.
Can't make excuses, Josh.
That's true. But there was a lot.
2022, the year of no excuses.
The year of no excuses.
No excuses.
Yeah. But I mean, we got through a lot of things. We got through you getting married. I mean, I can't believe we got through that with not missing one, to be honest.
I would agree.
You know? Because that was a crazy week.
Yeah. Let's do this. Okay, so we did 51 episodes. This is 51.
Mm-hmm.
What are your highlights from the podcast of the year, Josh?
Oh, my highlights. Yeah. You need to, let me know when you're going to ask me these things.
I didn't know that I was going to ask this question until right now.
You know, I think...
You got any highlights?
I think my favorite podcast that we did was with I think my number one was when we talked to Process K9. Mm-hmm. And then
that was our most well received one, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's truly because we jived so well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's cool when there are other people in the industry that you feel like you're on kind of a similar wavelength with.
Exactly.
And there's not this level of competition where it's like anybody's trying to one up each other or anything.
Exactly.
And it's just good conversation.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Good mutual respect conversation. Yep. I feel like the Lake Erie Dogs episode was also very similar to that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We
They're coming back out here soon again, so it's all right. I'm actually going to be heading out to go hang out with them here soon in the next couple weeks.
Oh, good. Yeah, that was a fun one, talking about the food and everything.
Yeah.
My favorite book that we went through, I think, was definitely the Monks of New Skeet. Mm-hmm. The Art of Raising a Puppy. That one was so good, even though it's so old. It still held true to everything we kind of do today.
I think that was the most in-depth series that we did on puppy raising and stuff like that. And I actually had a couple of clients reach out to me recently one in particular that just got a new puppy, that before she got the puppy literally went and bought that book and read the entire thing, which was sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much read that book front to back. I mean, we left out a couple basically unnecessary details that were just story stuff that had nothing to do with the actual raising of the puppy.
Yeah.
But that was really in depth. I'm just kind of going through here again. I'm jolting my system here.
That's a lot of podcasts.
Kind of are going through, right? So first episode obviously was the first and only one that I tried to actually script out.
Yeah.
And I just freaking epically failed on. I remember I literally the night before I spent an hour and a half creating this script. I had talking points and stuff on it. I was going to have a little 1-page printed out for both of us. And I literally accidentally deleted the file that next morning and we didn't have anything to go off of. And that was so nerve-wracking because it was the first one and it's fuck. Yeah. I was so prepared for it and then wound up being so under-prepared for it.
Yeah.
That one moved into the Caesar review stuff, or not the Caesar's Way stuff. We got into that. We really dove through, I feel like, a lot of the... honestly, the first year, I feel like these first 51 podcasts or so really went down the list of my evolution of getting into dogs. Mm-hmm. Sans, I think we left out a lot of the Michael Ellis stuff that I learned from, which we will cover in detail on this podcast at some point.
Yeah.
The problem is he doesn't really have any books or written format that we can pull off of. Most of his stuff is in the form of DVD, which I actually just repurchased 2 of his DVDs off of Learberg.com that are coming in soon, and I plan on sitting down. These were the most the most influential dog training DVDs of my career, I would say. And I talk about them with the staff all the time, and unfortunately you can't really find them anywhere online to be streamed. You have to purchase them and get ready for this fucking shit. Yeah. These motherfuckers over at Learberg know that you can't get it anywhere else, and they charge you $70 per DVD for them.
Oh, man.
Rough, man. So I purchased both of them. They're coming in. I plan on re-sitting down in front of those. Really, I'm gonna make a whole freaking note page thing on it, and we'll kind of really get into the weeds with that because I think that's gonna be fun. But just kind of how we progress through this stuff. Again, we got into the Caesar stuff. We started getting into the dog park episode. I think is one of the most well received ones we did as well.
Yeah,
remember we were talking about, did that place ever open?
No, still isn't open yet.
Interesting.
Yeah,
got into that TikTok trends.
Yeah.
Got into some of that kind of stuff.
The button pushing.
Oh, man.
Staying
relevant. Dog talk.
Some real, I think the really good ones, too, are with Matt at the time.
Matt's episode number 13. That was the first one he was on.
Yeah. That was fun because it was like a glimpse into someone that was newer, getting into it, you know?
Yep.
Which is a big thing that we want people to listen. We want those new trainers to kind of feel accepted and not that we're pushing them out and this is for experts only. Yeah. You know? Episode
15 with Margot and Emma was really fun. So, again, that's one I would recommend a lot of people listen to, only because Margot and Emma are 2 clients of mine who became fairly close friends, who really are fascinated by dogs and dog training, and they just literally wrote down a freaking list of just 9 gazillion questions they had, and they came on and just asked them, and we talked about them as as from an owner trainer situation. It was a really, really good conversation on that.
Should have them back on too, a year later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just a lot of this kind of stuff. We got into a lot of the day-to-day stuff. We really started shifting more into talking about some of the personal growth, some of the business-related things. The Pod 28, the podcast that should not be. Is that the one that? That the computer crashed 17 times?
Yep.
We deleted an hour's worth of an episode. Remember that?
Yep.
Oh fuck, that sucked. The Tim episodes. Remember when Tim couldn't show up on time? Oh man. And now he's growing weed out in fucking Oregon or something like that, working on a weed farm. I just had both of his dogs in for boarding recently. He's getting back to Cleveland soon.
That's good.
All sorts of stuff. Ooh, I kind of had an episode where I had to get a couple digs in at our boy Larry Crone. It's been good. Listen, so hang on, what am I doing here? It's been good. So we had no clue where this freaking thing was going to go, and I think throughout the course of this entire first year, it was a lot of still figuring out our voice in this kind of platform, right? I know that I could talk a lot, right? I know that once you get me going on a subject and stuff, I could really have a lot of opinions about those types of things. And I think that shows in the lessons that I do. That shows when we're having trainer meetings with our staff and stuff like that. But I've never really sat down and been obliged to just come up with and then rant on topics for extended periods of time and share my knowledge in this unprompted or unscripted type of format. So it's been pretty cool to see how that's kind of grown and how I've gotten more comfortable discussing different types of things openly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even now, I know I know I can't pinpoint them off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are these mental roadblocks that I still have as far as things I want to talk about, things I don't want to talk about, stuff like that. And one of my big goals moving into the new year here is to continue to get more open and honest about those types of things, and to continue to share my my personal opinions, regardless of how, nice or not nice they may be about certain types of things, and really continue to do what I strove to do at the beginning of starting this thing, which is help dog owners and new dog trainers, because this is really who this podcast is for. This podcast is for newer dog trainers or business owners, or obviously owners, to continue to help them weed through the bullshit that is the fucking dog world. Because there is so much of it. There's much of it. And, I always say I would hate to be a new dog owner at this exact time in life. But it's cool. So, again, we got some plans here coming into the new year of different types of things we want to start doing. You'll probably see in the next couple episodes here that we start implementing some of those things. And just overall growing, we're working on growing the YouTube channel,
Yep.
We're also starting effective tomorrow. This is kind of exciting that you guys will start to see here this week. Effective tomorrow, we're going to start doing I don't want to say exactly how many times because this first week is going to be an experiment with it, but we're shooting for 3 full day vlogs every single week. And we've posted some vlog stuff here and there, right? But our vlog that we posted has been an impromptu, basically collection of everybody's clips they had on their phone of stuff. Right. Yeah. Just fun little things. There's no story being told on it. It's not filmed in super high quality. It's not edited together with high quality and stuff like that. But moving forward here, we have Paige heading the show on this. She is transitioning to being a vlogger for us, right? So she is going to be not every single day, the days that we're obviously filming it, the 3 days per week, coming in and literally just recording everything in that day and creating a full story. Think the Gary V's vlog that he does, Daily V. Not quite like Casey Neistat's because it's not going to be self-filmed and stuff like that. But it's going to be a cool production that we're putting together. So that's going to be starting. You'll probably see the first one coming up here Tuesday.
Cool.
So, a lot of fun things coming up. We're excited to keep pushing the media department here as we move into the new year, as we move into 2022.
Yeah.
So
that's good. I like it.
Anything else new? 3 days again,
Yeah, another 3 days. But
it's been through the new year.
Yeah, it has
we're
been.
in a new year officially.
We are in the new year officially. Besides getting all my tax stuff together, not really. I just printed out my mileage report, and that was fun.
There you go.
It's like 11 pages.
How do you track all your mileage?
I have an app.
Do you use an app for it? We use like Stride or Waze?
I use Driver's Note.
Driver's Note.
Which I guess QuickBooks has their own too, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to call Taylor, I think, pretty soon because I'm getting in a little bit of a pickle with that QuickBooks stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
complicated.
Yeah, it's like easy, but not,
Mm-hmm. The mileage thing is one of those things that my CPA for years was telling me, like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, right? Because it's literally like it's the easiest form of tax deductible income that you could like ever do.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is be persistent enough and consistent enough about tracking where you're going. That's it.
I mean,
and that's
listen. I'll tell you. I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, it's just an estimate, but like when you print the report, like I just printed January through December, and it tells you how many miles and how many cents. Because I think it's right now Ohio gives you 56 cents a mile.
It's moving to 58 cents a mile this coming year in 2022.
Let's go. Yeah. But I'm just gonna say it, like it's gonna save me almost $3,000. Yeah. Just on mileage.
I mean, you figure like rough guesstimate, like let's say hypothetically speaking, you drive, let's say for me, right, like in between lessons and stuff like that per week, let's say 25 miles a week, 25 times 52 times 58. That's $800 right there. That's $800 that comes directly off of your tax bill. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like, I mean, coming here, going to any of my shoots, that's all usable mileage, So
and in that case, it's quite a bit further, obviously, because in your case,
I'm coming from Akron.
Multiple times a week. I mean, you're like you were saying, you're tripling / quadrupling that. Yeah.
I mean,
in the amount of mileage.
At the bare minimum, just to get here, it's like 34 miles. I think it's like $21 one way.
Yeah. So that's, 68 just for here. That's 68 miles a week. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Times 52 times 58 cents. Yeah, that's over $2,000 right there. Yeah. Simply from driving here.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So these are the things people don't take advantage of. Right?
Yeah.
These are the things that you don't know. And it's I understand it's such a pain in the ass. I hated doing it originally when it came to like tracking it out and stuff like that. But goddamn, is it beneficial?
With these apps now, you just turn on your GPS location, and it does it all for you. It's not like you have to sit there with your odometer and map it all out and stuff. It literally just hit the button and then hit the button when you're done. When you get there. And I always tried to when I have shoots up here, I would always try to do it okay, I'm coming up here on Thursday. Can you guys do Thursday? Just to
sure.
make it better for me in the long run. But so it's I would only have from here to that next job or whatever.
Yep.
And then I do have one from Philly. That was nice. That was I don't know, 300 miles almost.
Yeah.
To out there and back.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you obviously don't want to be fluffing it because if you get audited and stuff, you really get yourself screwed and in a bind, right? Yeah. But there are a lot more things that are write-offable than you think they are that could really help you when it comes to the end of the year, when it comes to these types of things. And here's the thing, right? Transitioning back to zigzagging here back to personal finance that we talk about all the time, that's the importance of tracking all of your spending, right? That's why to this day, every penny that I fucking spend, I track on my phone using apps, right? That way I can go through and I can look at those things and I can categorize those things as I need to. And it helps me stay more organized and more on top of those things, and it saves me money at the end of the year.
Yeah. My big thing for this year is I'm going to actually just pay myself instead of just keeping this back for the taxes and then just kind of transferring the rest. I'm just going to
set an X amount.
Yeah, and just literally have everything through just my business account, so it's just way easier to keep track of. Because if I buy,
wait, back up a second.
Yeah,
you're saying that what you're going to do is you're going to start running all of everything through your business account.
Well, anything for the business.
Oh, I understand.
For gas or
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, or buy new equipment, anything.
I was gonna say,
that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, not personal stuff. Yeah, but
how many people at the end? How many people I know that own businesses that have their business bank account and they just live out of that?
Yeah, no,
don't do that.
No, I'm not doing that. No, but I have bought things equipment wise through my personal account, and it just gets. I have to go back and find every little piece that is for the business. Yeah, and I'd rather just have it all straight from that account and not have to worry about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's why I want to do give myself a weekly, or 2 week, however I want to do it, and
how were you doing it before? You were just taking, 25% for taxes and then just the rest, just
30%.
Yeah.
I was keeping a little extra back.
Sure.
Yeah. And then just putting it into my personal.
I got you.
Which, I mean, it's not the smartest way to do it, but I was already halfway through the year and I was I should do this. And now I was it'll just be easier if I just start fresh.
Yeah.
The next year. So that's what I'm going to do this year is okay, this is how much I'm going to take every week or whatever. As
your income goes up, one thing that I remember, I think I watched it in I saw a little Kevin Hart clip somewhere where Kevin Hart was saying, he was talking about taxes with somebody, right? And granted, this dude makes enough money where he can get away with doing this very easily, right? But he said, once you start making enough money where you're surviving, well on it, you're able to have, a good enough life and stuff like that where you're not scraping for every penny. He's first thing that you do is, I think he said, whatever your income is, he said, take 50% of it and just put it in a fucking bank account somewhere. He said, and that's your tax money. He's regardless of what tax bracket that you're in, regardless of if you're paying 20%, 30%, 40% on your taxes, he said, just stick it in a separate account. That way, no matter what, regardless of what happens, regardless of if you miss payments and have late fees and the IRS and this and that, he's nobody is going to ever come knocking at your door and say, hey, you owe us money. You're screwed, basically. Yeah. Right? He said, don't even touch it. Even at the end of the year, whatever's remainder in there, he's just leave it in the freaking account. It's your safety net. It's your backup. It's your fail safe. Especially if your income continues to go up, you have more of kind of a fluff amount of change in there. Yeah. So that next year when you pay more on taxes, you can always make sure that there's enough in that account. Right? He's from there, he's whatever's left, he's split it in half again. He's right? He's 50% of that money is yours to live on, to have fun with, to buy all your fun stuff with, to do all your things. And he said 50% of the rest of that money is for investing. He's like, whether that's investing in yourself to learn new skills, whether that's investing in real estate, to get yourself into some sort of position like that, whether that's to invest in the stock market. He's like, focus on growing yourself secondary with that. And if you always follow that formula of essentially like 50%, 25%, 25%, he's like, no matter what, you will always be positioning yourself for success, and you will always be more prosperous in the long run with those types of things.
Yeah.
And I try to follow that pretty heavily, with especially the tax side of things. It's like, obviously we pay our quarterly estimates and stuff like that. And obviously this coming year, you're going to have quarterly estimates that you'll need to be paying and stuff like that too. He's like, but, technically speaking, if you're following your goals and ambitions every year, that number should be higher, right? You should be bringing in more profit every single year so that, you got to be prepared for that, obviously. And I'll tell you, we talked about this with the first company, obviously. One of the most stressful times of the year was the end of year tax season when we had no clue what to expect as far as what do we owe somebody. Yeah. And it's not even something I really even think about anymore. Especially this year, we had a great year. And at the end of the year tax meeting, he's sitting there. I was like, all right. I was like, what's the damage? I was like, what do I need to pay at the end of the year? And he gave me the number. And he was fully expecting to be like, holy shit, that's not good. And I was like, all right, cool. I think I even said, I was like, oh, that's it? He's like, what do you mean that's it? I was like, yeah, that's it. I was like, yeah, we've been planning for that,
Yeah.
Obviously, we got that put aside. So, as long as for any people that are getting into this kind of stuff, just always just extra put aside for those taxes.
Yeah.
Make sure they never come to screw you.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of looking at my tax bracket, and it's, I'm probably somewhere like 25 to 27, but I'm just keeping 30. I was just like, from the get go, I was like 30%. I'd rather have more, they were saying, than less, because no one wants to pay the tax guy. You got to give them enough already. You don't want to have to owe. Right. And I'll have to figure out the whole deduction thing, but I'm hoping to have feel good about it. But it's all going to be invested. Like if I have enough to kind of put down on a new camera, because I was like, the one thing that I need to make my stuff better is a new camera body.
Yep.
I mean, I love that, the one I have, but I've had that for 5 years, 6 years almost now. And it's like, it's a good intro professional camera.
Yeah.
But it's time to up the stakes, up the game,
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I look at that as an investment. I mean, that's a business investment in myself.
100% is. Yes.
So
that is something that ultimately will improve your product and make you more valuable.
And that's what, I honestly I was having this internal battle with myself. I was like, I don't know if I should buy, because I was like, is this a selfish thing to buy? Is this selfish? But I was like, at the end, finally I got it through my head. I was like, no, you use this for your livelihood. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's not just a hobby thing anymore for me.
It's also not something too where you used it for 6 months and you're like, oh, I need to upgrade, and use it for 6 months and oh, I need to upgrade. It's you figured out a way to make this thing maximize its value and start creating money for you, right? Before you chose to make that big upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
which is what most people don't do.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
And I had because I had those friends too. Those friends that were in the air, that had the studio that no longer exists.
Get the nicer one.
Yeah, but they were always gear nerds. We got to get this new Panasonic. It's going to change our lives. We're going to make so much money. Yeah, you closed your studio. I hate those people.
It's also it's not what's going to make you more money, right? This is every industry. When I was in music, it was the same way. We got to get this new amplifier so our live show sounds so much better. And you know how many freaking bands I would go see that would have sold out shows that would be playing on the most garbage of equipment? It literally didn't matter,
That guy's got a line 6, like a spider amp or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
what people can, we could see the difference in those things way more than other people can.
Yeah, Yeah, and trust me, I did have I had that for a year, and I was like, man, if I just had a better camera. Yeah. But it wouldn't matter back then because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Still, I had the grasp of what I was doing, but I didn't know how to use most of the functions on that camera yet. I was like, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the big thing is like, I think it's Peter McKinnon. He said something about a long time ago when I first started watching him. He's like, it doesn't matter if you have like a Canon 80D, which is what I have, or if you have the 1DX Mark II, which is their like flagship model at the time. He's like, I think he did one where he gave like his friend, like there's a professional, like this smaller camera, and then like this amateur with a bigger camera. And the guy that knew lighting techniques and all the aperture setting, blah, 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 this stuff looked way better. Yeah.
Casey Neistat also had a really good video where he was talking about gear in it, and he like had like a cost to performance like graph that he made. Yeah. And he was like, he's like, let's look at like as you spend more money on your equipment and as you upgrade, like what the quality of your product shifts with that as well. And it was like from like $100 to $1,000, like dramatic differences obviously in quality. Yeah. But once you have that like good mid-ish level or high mid-level equipment that puts out a good product, he's like, you could literally spend $4,000 more, and the actual difference in the picture you're creating and stuff like that is so marginal that it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. Unless you're so freaking skilled with that thing where you know how to amplify every single little improvement with it, to make it worth it.
Yeah. And and like what I'm looking for, it's called the Canon R5, and it's like their mirrorless camera or whatever. Yeah, but it's around like 4,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's like the mid, it's like the low high, like mid. You know what I'm saying? But
it sounds like it, but it's really not.
Yeah, but it's what I need. What's going to help me is it has 50 megapixel sensor, where that's like I think it's like 12. I think it's pretty low, but I'm going to be going over double. And the reason it's good for me is because as a product photographer, you want every little detail crisp, like really crisp, And I get that kind of with that, but it would allow me to just like make it pop at you, like. There's a drink photographer that I follow, and he just posted something the other day. He's like, man, I love using this getting 60 megapixels, and like the ice just looks like you could just reach on the photo because it's just more information. And oh my God, that's all I need. And my buddy was like, well, how long is this going to sustain you? Like, he's like, that's what you got to think about. I was like, I could run with that camera for the next, 5 to 7 years, And
if you look at it that way, if you break that down over 5 years,
Oh yeah, it's going to pay for itself.
Is that camera going to make you $1,000 a year? It's like, it's going to make you $1,000 a year.
Yeah, more than hopefully, way more than that. So it's and I guess I'm saying this mostly because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, even if you're not in my field, like whatever you're doing as a small business, like if you're upgrading your equipment, like don't feel like it's a selfish thing, because that's how like I was saying, that's how I felt. Like I was like, I don't know if I should do that. Well, if it's gonna up your quality and maybe you can up your prices because you're giving a better product, do it.
You just got to be realistic about is that gonna actually make you like the mentality of, is me upgrading this equipment gonna be the thing that's gonna make me pop, or is it something where I'm already making a name for myself and it's just gonna help me continue to improve that?
Exactly. It was a good one. It was good business.
All right. So on to the next thing here. We'll get into some dog stuff. We got a bunch of miscellaneous little bits of information here. Got a couple questions, a couple topics, stuff like that. So got a question yesterday from a client, Mariah, from Missouri.
Missouri. Oh.
Do you remember them? They brought their dogs in for board and train.
What was their dog's name?
Watson and Louie, and then they recently brought a new dog, Fritz. I don't know if I think this would have been maybe right before you started with us. Whatever. So longtime clients brought now 3 dogs to us, driven them up from Missouri.
That is awesome.
Or no, Missouri. Is it Missouri?
Or is it Michigan?
No,
Mississippi?
Minneapolis.
Oh,
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minneapolis. So anyways, so she asked a question. She said, "Hi, how do I submit a question to the podcast? I've sent 3 of my dogs to David over the years, but now my brother's having trouble with his dog. She's calm in the crate when they're home, but when they leave, she barks and barks to the point where she's so worked up she's covered in slobber. Next, she is obsessed with water. They've tried desensitizing her. They've gone to the vet. No internal issues. She pees every time she gets excited, even if she's had very little water. Anytime she comes over. Anytime she sees another dog. Any way we could submit those questions to the podcast." So this is a lot of different things, and we kind of have a tiered approach to working through this kind of stuff, right? So we can look at the symptoms that we're having, right, of the barking and barking in the crate, right? Or sorry, that we have the getting themselves so worked up into the crate where they're covered in slobber and stuff. We have the obsession with the water. We have the peeing, whether it's excitable, whether it's submissive every time people come over, anytime she sees another dog, right? But all of these things, per how I'm reading this question, are coming from a dog that gets themselves like 0 to 700 amped up like in half a second, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these types of dogs that struggle this intensely with impulse control issues, they get so worked up, they lose control of everything. They lose control of themselves in the crate, and typically they'll just be barking, freaking out, just out of their head, not even focusing, paying attention, slobbering everywhere, pawing at the crate, barking, et cetera, et cetera. They'll just lose control of their bladder anytime they get overstimulated. And a lot of times what I do is I don't look at necessarily the symptoms of what the dog is doing. I look at the general impulse control as a whole, right?
Okay.
And it sounds like it sounds like it's easier than it is, obviously. It's simply a matter of starting to get this dog trained and more under control. Mm-hmm. And we start with an initial program of working the dog through all their foundational commands, all of their communication, stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then we start chipping away at some of these areas of impulse control just in general, right? So before I'm even worried about the crate, I'm going to start working a lot of duration exercises. Can I get this dog to hold really, really long down stays and really, really long bed stays for extended periods of time while I'm moving in and out of the house, going out of sight, coming back in, stuff like that, and just getting them working that muscle of keeping themselves under control. That's going to start to stimulate 50% of their brain onto a task. That's going to start to stimulate 50% of their brain to be focused in and compliant, which will only leave a remaining 50% to get themselves so overstimulated by things, right? From there, we start looking at some of the specific things they would do in the crate, right? So I would start immediately correcting for the barking, right? Before we even worry about the state of mind of the dog when they're in the crate and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to make sure that first and foremost, they could start being quiet in there and understanding that in the crate, there are some boundaries they need to abide by. A lot of people, when I talk about this, they get really concerned that, correcting the dog in the crate is going to make them it's going to make them have a bad association with being in the crate and this and that. I always tell them the dog already clearly has a horrible association with the crate, right? So nothing you're going to do is going to make that worse. If anything, you're just going to teach the dog to focus in and not get themselves into this uncontrollable state of being overstimulated and aroused in the crate, right?
Yeah.
Interrupting that state of mind. And every time they start going from, okay, I'm in it, I'm calmed, I'm starting to get myself worked up to bark, to, oh.
Yeah.
Right? Snap them out of it. Oh,
yep.
What the heck? And then they start trying to cycle again. And then, once they hit a certain point, snaps them out of it, right? And then after you repeatedly do that a couple of times, they start being like, wait a minute. What's going on here? Something's different. Usually I get myself into this out of mind state of mind right now. And now I'm not able to do that because every time I start trying to cycle into this, I get snapped out of it and I focus back in, right? And, if you're not present for this, sometimes this is where I would implement something like a bark collar. And this initially will not take away the anxiety, right? Mm-hmm. This just gets things to a place where they're more manageable. This gets things to a place where the dog becomes more conscious of what it is that they're actually doing, right? They're able to look at the situation they're in and they're able to find alternative ways to essentially self-soothe and to essentially get themselves calming down, right? So, or better coping mechanisms, right? So as you start to interrupt that state of mind, which you'll see is the dog will start then trying other things. Maybe they'll still pant. Maybe the first 4 times after you've stopped the barking, they still sit in the crate and they just pant the entire time. Okay, well, we made some progress, right? We stopped the barking. They're still really anxious in the crate, and they're still all slobbery and gross and stuff, but we've brought it from here down to here, right? Then, after a couple of times of doing that, maybe we start seeing they only pant for the first half of you being gone, right? Then we start seeing them only pant for the first 10 minutes. Then we start seeing prolonged periods of time where they go and they lay down, even for just a split second, and then they get back up, right? Then we see them hit a point where they start taking naps in it. And because they're more physically aware and emotionally aware of what it is that they're doing, they're able to try alternatives, right? Now, going in and trying to address these crate issues without addressing all of the other areas of impulse control is just kind of counterintuitive, right? It's not that it won't work at all. I mean, you can get a little bit of progress doing that. But if you're going from these contrasting, like super freaking crazy and out of control all the time, and then in the crate, like there's all these rules and structure, that is going to create a little bit of this association of like the polar opposites, right? Out of the crate is so much fun where I could do whatever the hell I want to do. In the crate is like not fun because there's rules and boundaries, right?
Exactly.
So you have to address the overall state of mind of this kind of stuff, which is where, again, that impulse control kind of comes into play with this. And that gets into the other side of this, right? So first off, the obsessed with water thing. Now, I don't know if this is obsessed with water from the standpoint of the dog just like guzzles water like crazy every time they're presented with it. If that's the case, it's probably a twofold thing. One, anytime you're dealing with dogs that have this much crate anxiety, like because they're panting so much in the crate and slobbering so much in the crate, they typically come out of the crate extremely dehydrated, right? So you'll see them just absolutely gorge themselves with like an entire pail of water as soon as you let them out. Until you start seeing the progress of the crate, that's going to be normal. That's going to be something that you're going to see, and I wouldn't worry about it, but I also wouldn't start restricting the dog of it either, right? I would let them guzzle up as much of it as they want to and just let them realize it's not going to go away. You're not going to drink all of it, because the second you start restricting that water access, the second you start creating more drive for the water, right? Which obviously we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Hear the popo coming? That's pretty loud. They're at my front door. They're coming for me. So that's what I'm assuming is going on with the obsessed with water thing. And then because she's having these peeing issues, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that she's probably, her brother is also probably restricting water to try to avoid some of that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. Right. So I understand, like, that's the logical thing of like, well, she's peeing every time people come over, so I'm just going to stop giving her water before people come over. But again, it's just going to make the problem worse. That's not the solution for it. It's simply going to make the dog more driven for water and to gorge it down more every time they're presented with it, right? Which you don't want to do, obviously. So then you get into the excitable peeing when people come over, or when she sees another dog. Again, those are impulse control issues, right? The first thing I do when I have dogs that get like excitable peeing when people come over is we work on that bed command, and we make sure that for the first 15 to 20 minutes that people over the house, the dog gets all that excitement and all that stimulation out of the way on the bed. They're not going to pee. Because most of it is triggered to, they run up to you, they get all excited, and if you acknowledge or pet the dog, that's when the peeing starts. Right? On the bed, they can get all that out of their system so that when they get off of the bed, energy level is 10x decreased. You don't have as much of that arousal. You don't have as much of that pee. Same with the seeing the other dog. I mean, it's a very similar situation. You know, it's just one of those things where you got to work on the impulse control. You got to make sure the dog is not getting themselves this worked up when they see another dog. So sometimes I get questions like this, and I feel bad because like I want to give a more in-depth answer of like, this is something you can go do tomorrow kind of thing. Right? But most of this kind of stuff is there's too many layers to it to give an answer like that. This is not something like my dog just jumps on people. Like, something like that, we could give you 4 different ways to start correcting the dog when they jump on people, which will kind of help solve that problem. But when you're dealing with grayer issues like overstimulation and stuff, the solution is just training, right? And I guess it is a simple thing that you can go out and do tomorrow. But at the same time, it's like, you know, like, that's more time that takes money, that takes resources, that takes time.
It's not an overnight solution.
Not an overnight kind of solution for those types of things. Right? But unfortunately, that still is kind of the solution with these kinds of things. So that's something you could do right off the rip. I mean, listen, as far as things at home you could start doing, again, purchasing an e-collar, purchasing a prong collar. You could start with some of my YouTube videos on introducing the prong collar on the walk to try to help with some of these dog issues. From there, you could either work all the way through like the introducing the e-collar with the walk and stuff. We got 2 videos on that, obviously, with Major that we did. There's also a video where we used a pet corrector to correct for dog reactivity out on the walk. We actually have like 3 different pet corrector videos showing how to use that, which could help with that overstimulation, right?
Yep.
So you could start doing those things, obviously, without hiring a trainer.
Yes.
You could purchase, again, either an e-collar or a bark collar to start using in the crate with the dog. Because the first step is you have to block that pattern of the barking in the crate. And then you could stop restricting access to water, obviously.
Yep.
And I think we might have a couple videos on teaching the bed command and stuff. All of these rules are going to kind of start to apply with that. You can also look at, too, like when you have people come over, before you have that bed command taught, is the dog jumping on people, right? Because that would be something that you could start correcting right away as well to help reduce the arousal levels a little bit. But you probably still will need a good bed command ultimately taught. So a lot of layers to this. Those are a couple places I would start with the walk and with the crate. I would pick those 2 things to like isolate and get under control right away.
Yeah.
And again, we got YouTube videos on how to do those things, so that can kind of give you a little bit of a hand with that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'll make sure to put the little clicky card thing to that. Yep. The little links.
All right. What we got next here? So again, just a bunch of miscellaneous topics, things that I've been noticing over the holiday weekend. I saw last night, Gary Wilkes, who we've talked about before on this podcast, made a kind of funny, in typical Gary Wilkes fashion, kind of sarcastic, passive-aggressive kind of status. I thought it was funny and something that we can kind of get into here as well.
What did he say?
All right, so, all right. Gary says, there's a common question that people ask when they see punishment work efficiently. Will I always have to be prepared to punish the dog forever? Mind you, they have just seen a behavior stop instantly that they have been trying to stop for months to years. Their first thought is to extrapolate from ignorance and imagine things that don't happen. There is a short answer to this question. No, you don't. However, a more robust answer is warranted. First, unless you want to go above and beyond normal pet ownership, you will forever have to have a leash. Nobody worries about that. Second, your dog will always have to wear a collar. Third, they will always have to go outside several times a day to pee and poop. The obligation is to provide your dog with what it needs or don't get a dog. So, when you see something that is dramatically more effective than anything you have ever seen, don't imagine what it will do in the future. If you want the benefits, and they are many, of using a head halter, for instance, yes, you should use it forever. If you wish to keep your dog alive, you should feed them forever, or as long as you wish them to live. Then he said, here's a video of 2 dogs learning not to rush out the front door because they were likely to get killed by animal control if they ever did that again. I kept in touch with their owners for 2 years. This single training event lasted that long with no touch-ups. After that, had it started to decay, they could have repeated the process for another 2 years plus inhibition. Gee, is that too much trouble for you?
Boy, this guy.
So again, bear with the sass here, right? Like this goes hand in hand with our podcast we did last time about like I should say, I am not blaming you guys as the dog owner, right?
Yeah.
For a lack of knowledge of certain types of things, right?
Yeah.
I'm not blaming you and making it seem like this is such an inconvenience for me to answer your questions and explain things and stuff. Yeah. But it is a funny comment as far as how many times do I get asked by people, right? So people will, let's say, pick up their dog from a board and train, or they'll finish one-on-one sessions or something like that, and we'll have just like done something that would have 4 weeks prior to been literally seemingly impossible to the owner, right? Whether that's walk off leash through a park, whether that's recall away from tons of distractions, whether that's not jump on people anymore, whether that's not be aggressive with other dogs and run and play and stuff like that. There will be some sort of thing that when they first called us and we first had that conversation over the phone and they said, "Hi, David. Yeah, I would like for my dog to, no longer jump on people. It's such a hassle. I'm going to have to get rid of my dog over it, blah, blah, blah." And they'll pick up the dog, and the dog won't do those things anymore, right? The dog will literally be exactly what they called and asked, right? And it'll turn... And the first question is not, oh my gosh, this is so incredible, right?
Yeah.
The first question is, yeah, but will they do that if they don't have the e-collar on?
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not blaming from the standpoint of I don't necessarily see this as an owner issue because, frankly, I think the only reason why that question is being asked in the first place is because a lot of trainers out there in the positive only realm and stuff like that make this notion that, like, exactly that. The dog only listens if they have the e-collar because they're scared and blah, blah, and this and that. But to Gary's point here, if all you need to do is put an e-collar on your dog and suddenly they're everything you ever wanted them to be.
Yeah.
How's
that a bad thing?
Isn't that kind of a good trade-off here? You know what I mean?
It's a great trade-off.
It's a good trade-off of like literally I just click this thing on you and suddenly you're a perfect good boy. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
So I thought this was a funny comment because I want people to think about this stuff, right? I want people to think about like, okay, cool. What is it that you want with your dog, right? What is it that you want in life, right? I would love to have a fucking diced up 6-pack, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to go through the work of let's exercise and let's eat good and stuff like that so we can get down to that.
Yeah.
But let's say suddenly I do get that diced up 6-pack and I look fucking sweet. Right?
Okay.
I'm not going to ask my trainer, yeah, but do I need to eat like this forever to achieve this result?
Yes.
So you're telling me I can't go back to having like 3 beers a day and eat pizza like 4 times a week?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Wow. That didn't work.
How could you?
So just look at like, okay, forget dogs, forget your exercise routines and stuff like that, or fitness goals that you have, right?
Uh-huh.
Anything you want in life has a trade-off.
Yep.
Anything, right? There will with nothing in your life be I want this thing, I achieve this thing that I want, and then I no longer do the things that got me to that place and still have it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You want to build a fucking sweet business, like Miracle Canine Training is a freaking sweet business right now, right? If I stop doing all of the things that I did to get it to be a really freaking sweet business, it will no longer be a really freaking sweet business, right? Like with your dog, right? If you want your dog to be super well behaved, super freaking reliable around distractions, that model dog that everybody looks at and they're like, wow, I wish my dog can behave like that. And suddenly your standard of training starts slipping and you start saying, I don't really want to enforce this stuff anymore. Yeah, your dog is a living, breathing creature that's going to take advantage of that opportunity and be like, hey, Dad ain't going to make me do this shit anymore, so I'm going to stop doing it, right? So, bringing this stuff back for a minute here, right? To will I always, like he was saying, will I always have to punish my dog for this? Will I always have to use the e-collar? Short answer, again, no. There are so many situations that my dogs don't wear e-collars, and they're still very well behaved.
Yep.
But it's always in the back of my mind as far as it's there if I need it, if they stop behaving, so that my standard can always be maintained.
100%.
Right? Mm-hmm. So don't get so freaking caught up in your head about, do I have to do this forever?
Yeah.
Really? I got to put that thing on them? Because like he said, if you're walking down a busy road, you're always going to put a leash on your dog forever and ever and ever. And nobody gripes about that. Nope. Nobody has any issues with that because they logically, for whatever reason, because it's such, you know what it is, I think? Because that one is such a important one because it's like a life or death thing. Yeah. To most people, if that leash isn't on, their dog is going to get hit by a car and die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So the risk to reward, the trade-off of put the leash on versus don't put the leash on is so high that it's not even something that you would question.
Yeah.
But the trade-off of like, a little extra work for me to put the e-collar on every time I have guests come over so I can correct them for jumping on my guests so that they no longer do that thing versus I slip up sometimes and like they kind of just annoy my guests, but it doesn't affect me in any way.
Yeah.
The trade-off is not, for some people, they don't care. They don't care as much about that. Right? So it's interesting. I read that last night, and first thing I did was screenshot it. I was like, we got to talk. This is a fun thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So, right. What else do I got on this list here?
You just got to love his, like, just little witty banter. I love that.
Gotta love the attitude.
Yeah. It's a little much sometimes, but that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, what else did I notice? Okay, so we've had, so for the last couple of weeks here, we've had like our Instagram page has kind of been popping a little bit. We've been having like a lot of organic reach on things and been having a lot of new people commenting on some of our stuff. And we've recently in the last like month posted a lot of things that could draw some like opinions, if you will, right?
Yes, the best.
And I had somebody comment on something today, right, like 3 hours ago, on the teaching the dog to walk behind you video that we posted. And they said, with claps, right?
Oh, God.
Hold on. The walk is for your dog. WTF is this advice? Why are you teaching a dog to walk behind you with an e-collar, let alone at all? Does your dog really need to be behind you on a walk? That's meant for them to be a dog and explore and sniff and feel comfortable moving freely. Why do you even have a dog? Okay, so you go on the person's
This is a real
page.
person?
Real person. Dog trainer duo. It's a professional, force-free, balanced canine trainer.
Where's the balance?
I don't know. So...
Oh, boy.
That's a good point. Yeah, force-free balanced canine trainer. I've never heard that one before, right? So whatever. So here's the thing. This led me to some thoughts because we got somebody else that commented somewhat recently just saying, let me see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it. The dog, or that just simply said, the walk is supposed to be for the dog. Right? So let's break this down real quick. Let's break down the walk, guys. Okay. And the purpose of the walk, in my opinion, right? Just to answer this question, right? So first off, to answer the initial question, right? Does the dog need to walk behind you? Short answer to this, no, they don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Now, what was my logic for teaching this for such a long period of time and still implementing this with some of my clients, right? The number one problem that I would see people come in with is they would have sloppy heeling. Most trainers out there could not find a way to articulate in as clear of a way possible to their clients exactly where the dog needed to be, right? Because traditional heeling is kind of gray, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it, like a lot of people preach this position of like legs in line with your hip or like, nose not passing your knee, or there's all sorts of different standards as far as where you should hold the dog to with it, right? Yeah. Where when you look at a dog walking in a position of being behind you, that is a more natural thing for a dog to do, right? You get into then the mentality of the walk and the mentality of the heel position, right? And I look at, for a dog, the most natural thing for them to do on the walk is to follow you. If they're engaged with you, if they're giving you good attention, if they're watching you, following slightly behind you is going to be the most organic place for them to be. Right? Which is why with a lot of these dogs, when we were teaching this, what would happen is they would kind of fight it initially because their attention was so all over the place. But what would wind up happening is they wind up walking like 3 feet behind us, 4 feet behind us, because they started realizing that as long as they could see me directly in front of them, that they would maintain that position much more perfectly, frankly. I mean, like a lot of these dogs, they would walk that way and they would hold that position essentially indefinitely because it's like, as long as you're in front of me, I know I'm in the right spot kind of mentality, where the heel position, they're relying 100% off peripherals, right? So like right now, I could see you really well.
Yeah.
Let's look at heel position. We're like in line with each other. This is not as easy.
Yeah. No.
This is tricky, right?
Yeah.
But I go back to, that's more relaxing.
Yeah.
That's less straining on me mentally. All I got to do is just see you right there, right? And I could still kind of look around and stuff, but like ultimately, like if I re-center back up, I know you're still there kind of thing, right? So what I would find is that as I started teaching that method to a lot of my clients, the dogs would do better and better. Their stress on the walk would decrease exponentially. And most of their problems went away. And I started doing really short lesson packages with people where I would teach just walking behind on the leash, and it went extremely well, right? The reason why I steered away from it is only because there are some dogs out there that they didn't need, as you know, the owners weren't struggling as much with teaching the walk or seeing that expectation. And I started realizing that I could also, with some of these more easy dogs, get the owner to see and visualize and understand that the heel position had nothing to do with the actual position that they were in, and it had more to do with that attention aspect.
Yeah.
And frankly, as the dog started getting better with it, they still organically would start to put themselves behind us, right?
Yeah.
So as far as why we would teach them to walk behind us, that was the mentality with it. And again, to this day, has been an extremely successful technique that, frankly, this method in this video, literally I freaking created. And the amount of trainers out there that I know right now that literally use this exact method to teach their healing to this day because it's been so effective is like exponential, right? Like there's definitely double digits trainers out there, like people that I know, people that I don't know, that literally to this day use this method. So it's very effective. And if you're looking for a way to tighten up some healing that you may have taught with another trainer, you've done some e-collar training with and stuff, this method will help clean up a lot of your issues, right? So then let's get into the next part of this of the walk is for the dog, and it's meant for them to be a dog and explore and sniff and feel comfortable moving freely, right? This is where I disagree with a lot of people, right? And so many people out there get into this fucking nonsense of like, we got to do our sniffing walks, and we got to, we got to let our dog use their nose, and I don't want to stress them out on the walk, and I want to get them just kind of doing their own thing and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, I've never seen a dog that has improved their behavioral issues by giving them more freedom on the walk, right?
Yeah.
What you're telling me by saying that is, well, I can't get my dog to listen to me on the walk, so I'm just going to let them do whatever they want to. That way they're not doing anything wrong. That way I could say that the dog is trained in listening to me, even though they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right? So, in my opinion, what I've always taught people, right, is that the walk is for... And also, here's the thing, right? If that were true, if the walk's purpose was to let your dog sniff and explore and move freely whenever they want to, and that were the solution for a lot of behavioral issues on the walk, don't you think that literally every single person in the history of dog owners would have the most perfectly well-behaved dogs, because that's all that anybody lets their dog do anyways from the second that they get them?
Yeah.
Right? So we know this is not the case. Now, I'm not saying sniffing doesn't have its purpose on the walk. I'm not saying that we don't want to give dogs freedom on the walk sometimes to like relieve themselves or explore or do things like that, right? But what I'm saying is I'm not posting freaking videos teaching leash walking and teaching, walking behind you and teaching proper heel position and all that kind of stuff because I don't want dogs to sniff on walks. I'm teaching these things and I'm posting these videos because most people struggle getting their dog under control on the walk, and all they've ever done is the latter of getting the dog to do whatever they want, and they can't reel it back in when they need to, right? When I go hiking with my dogs, 90% of that hike is them exploring and sniffing and doing whatever they want to do, right? But that's because they proved themselves, and I know I can get them into these positions if I need them to, and I know I can get them focused in when I need them to, right? So I always tell everybody the purpose of the walk is not just to physically stimulate your dog, but to mentally stimulate your dog at the same time, right? Physical stimulation is such a small piece of the puzzle, right? Physical stimulation does nothing to engage the mind, though, which is why I could work out first thing in the morning for an hour and have a really hard workout and immediately go to work after and be fully engaged and mentally prepared to take on the day.
Yeah.
It does nothing to long-term tire me out, right? Healing with your dog, getting your dog focused on you, getting your dog compliant, getting your dog mentally engaged, in addition to the physical stimulation of actually walking through doing your healing here, is exponentially more draining on a dog than anything else that you could possibly do with them, which is why we have clients that come in that used to walk their dog for 5 miles a day, 6 miles a day, 7 miles a day to try to solve their behavioral issues and tire them out enough where they wouldn't misbehave, that as soon as we start teaching that healing, they go for 15 to 20 minute walks and the dog is 10 times more tired from it.
Yeah.
And that's actually what solves the issues.
Yeah.
So this is why we teach this stuff, right? And again, that's why we preach this stuff. And that's why I get into these things over and over again when people tell me this stuff. I'm not saying don't fucking do those things. I'm not saying don't let your dog sniff and have a good time. I'm saying you got to focus on this first.
Yeah.
Because this is what's actually going to solve your problems, not the other.
Yeah. The other way is to let them do that is more of you should look at it as a reward, not the way to do it.
Yeah, and that's why we structure it out that way as well, where, first 30% of the walk is going to be healing, middle 30% is going to be some freedom, letting them sniff, letting them go to the bathroom, and remaining 40% of that walk is going to be healing again.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we always do. If I take Bender on a hike or anything, the first quarter mile is him healing to make sure that we get away from the parking lots and all kinds of stuff. And then after that, okay, if you did good enough, now you're rewarded. Now you can go up ahead and sniff around, whatever.
Yep.
So I agree with that 100%.
So that's kind of the mentality with that there. So a lot of other numerous topics and stuff like that we created, or that we've been kind of noticing over the last week or so. We're not going to get into all of them here. Last point, because it's kind of a thing that's going around in the dog world a lot lately, right? Mm-hmm. So, Josh, you sent me this video the other day.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me find it. Is it still?
It may be
still there.
Should still be there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Okay, you see it?
Yeah.
Viewer discretion advised.
Viewer discretion advised. All right, so there's a video that's going around viral right now, rightfully so, of a training company. I believe they're out of Missouri or Wisconsin or somewhere in that would that be that Midwest?
Yeah, Midwest area.
Midwest kind of area. And it's a video of some security cameras, and there's it looks a training company, and there's a guy all dressed up in a suit and everything, who I seemingly, when I first watched this video, kind of assumed was like an owner or something, because I don't see dog trainers regularly go to their place of employment dressed like that.
I know, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this man wears a suit to his dog training business?
What I'm assuming it was, and this is me talking on my ass kind of right now, I'm assuming this guy is just kind of the business owner, right? And he doesn't actually really work within the company that much. And maybe this was a dog that was giving them some problems, and the trainer's like, hey, will you help us with it? And he's like, yeah, I'll come and help you with it. And showed up in his fucking suit to be a fucking asshole, right? So basically, the video is detailing they're training this pit mix of sorts in a boarding train type format, right? And it's hard to tell exactly what happened at the very, very beginning. It looked like maybe they were working on like a sit stay or something. It's like the dog's got an e-collar on, and basically like the dog's like doesn't listen to him, and he just basically starts hanging this dog up by the collar and like smashing this dog around on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
terrible.
It's fucked up, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This stuff sucks, right? Because here's the thing. When it's hard to even put into words how like discouraging stuff like this is, because here's the thing, right? This is stuff that, you literally just heard me for the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes advocating for the use of e-collars, advocating for the use of balanced training approaches, and talking about correcting dogs for things, and preaching this movement of like, that's most of what's missing, right, in the training world, right? And unfortunately, it's this constant battle that we're stuck in as balanced trainers, or I should say as good balanced trainers, where we're trying to do our best to do as fair of a training process with these dogs as possible, right? We're trying to do our best to teach things in as like in as fair and gentle and non-conflicting way as possible, and to always strive to give better communication and to be more clear with the information that we're providing people, right?
Yep.
And information we're providing the dog, obviously, right? So that we could kind of start to shift some of these negative personas we get about shock collars, and all we want to do is zap dogs, and we don't really care about them, and we're just scaring them into compliance and stuff like that, right? We're fighting this battle so hard of like, you know, there's so many people out against what we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And then you just got like fucktards like this, right? Just fucking pieces of shit, right? Out here that just don't fucking like. They don't give. I don't know if it's they don't give a fuck, or I don't know if they're just like delusional psychopaths, or like, you know what the deal is.
I don't know, man. Right?
But like, some people just shouldn't be around animals, right? No. Because, you know, you look at this industry, it can be so hard on people, right? It's so, God, like the stress we deal with all the time from like owners, and the stress we deal with all the time from just having this expectation of needing to get these dogs better, right? And it could wear on you sometimes. Like, I get it, right? There are times when it's like, fuck, like, you're just like, you just get so frustrated and just so bitter to everything, you know? And unfortunately, there are people out there that, because you could sometimes get away with it, you know, they'll take that frustration out on the fucking animals they're working with.
Yep.
Because to them, it's just like a miscellaneous thing. It's like, to them, it's like, you know when you get pissed off, like when you were younger and you'd like go run upstairs and like punch a hole in your door or something.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like that. Like it's like the dog is just like an object like that to them. Yep. Right. And especially when you're in a business where, like, in a board and train format where you got dogs coming in and out and stuff like that, it gets really easy to detach and not see these animals as living, breathing, feeling, caring things.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something that, I can't. It's so sad that, like, this video is just like looping on my phone, right? Like, and I'm just like keep like looking down and fucking seeing it, and I'm watching this video, and I try to like play devil's advocate so much with things sometimes. Like, forget this for a minute, like with anything, right? Like, if there's something I disagree with, or if there's something that like I have a problem with or whatever, I always try to look at, like, what could have led to that, right? Like, what could have been the thing that was like, like made that justifiable to some extent, or this or that. But in the end of the day, when you look at some of these types of things, like, there has to be a line that's drawn of like, no amount of anything that could have led to a certain point makes this okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it's there's not much more to it aside from that, right? Like, if you can't keep your fucking emotions in check, you need to get the fuck out of this industry.
Yeah.
If you can't understand that when you start feeling frustrated about things, you need to just fucking go home, right? Then you need to leave. We got no place for you here, you know? And fortunately, unfortunately that this happened, right? But fortunately, this is going around right now and people are seeing, and it's just, it sucks. And it's so discouraging, though, because this is just another thing then that we have to continue to fight to prove to people that even though there's fucking bullshit like this that happens, there's good people out there still. That do care about this kind of stuff, right? And won't tolerate things like this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Back in my prior employment and stuff, and when I used to go to seminars and things like that, I remember very, very early on in my dog career seeing things that weren't this, they weren't this bad, obviously, but seeing things that I was just like, you know what? Like, I may not know everything right now, but I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. Like, I'm not, it just rubs you the wrong way. Yeah. And it's like those first signs of like, like, you just don't really give a fuck, like, you're like, this is for your own enjoyment right now. Yeah. And, between going through that and between me working through personal, like anger issues that I would get and stuff like that. And again, not towards dogs, obviously, but like I've never been a patient person, you know, like I could easily get in the past, I easily could get frustrated by things, you know, and I think it's because I saw that stuff so early on, you know, I always knew that, you know, this was just not, it's not okay. You know, like you can't take it out like that. You have to find other ways to channel that frustration. Yeah. You know? So I don't know, man. It sucks, dude. It's like, it's so shitty to see these types of things, you know, and they don't go around that often, but I would say at least once a year, twice a year, something like that. We'll see stuff like this. Yep. And, you know, I've talked in the past about, you know, like with Larry in particular, how like when a lot of this stuff first started going around, that's really when he made his shift to, with the e-collar, you know, like really promoting this different way of e-collar use, which I respected him for initially, you know, but I also have a responsibility, right? Where as a trainer that understands how to work through these types of issues, that understands how to help these dogs and how to help these owners, I can't also let this change me. You know, I can't let stuff like this scare me away from doing the things that I've been doing my whole life, because I know deep down inside of me that my intentions and that the things that I'm doing are good. Yeah. Right. I know that the things that I'm doing are positive, and I know that always with any of the things that I'm doing, I always have the dog's best interest in mind. Right. And this guy does not, obviously. Right. And he's going to suffer from it. Right. The state of Ohio and obviously the world does not take animal abuse cases lightly. So, I don't know. There's not a whole lot more to say about that, but I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents in on those types of things. This stuff genuinely is like, I can get real loose and have fun with things. And, you know, we joke around and I'm cussing up a storm and fucking, you know, shitting on this and that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. These are the kinds of things that like will get me like emotional about stuff. Yeah. Right. Because it's so hard, you know, especially as somebody that has dedicated myself for, you know, 9 years now to helping animals, to see stuff like this from somebody who is claiming to help animals. You fucked up, man. Yeah. So.
Yeah. To add to your point, it really sucks because, you know, you could have 100 amazing stories about balance training working, and then it's one schmuck like that does something stupid like that, and now it's going to be, you know, for the next month it's going to be the whole thing like, see, positive only is the only way you should go, blah blah blah. And it's like you said, it's just like we're already fighting like to prove that it's not an animal abuse anything, and then there's an idiot like that just makes it even harder.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, you know, you also like, let's look at it from this guy's standpoint. Like I saw like when some of this was being posted around, I saw some people commenting on it like, oh my God, like I sent my dog to this guy in the past and I had such a wonderful experience at the time. And then, you know, you go and see something like this and it's like, you know, in this industry too, you don't really get like with this kind of stuff, you don't get second chances with those types of things. You know, no part of that can you chalk off as like a honest mistake with things, right? Exactly. or anything like that, right? Like no part of that can be chalked up as that. Like it's one and done, right? Like you could be the greatest fucking dog trainer in the world, and you lose it one time, you do something like that, like you're done.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's you know it's like you know but it's like that's a problem, right? We like a lot of trainers out there will get it in their mind, they'll start looking at dogs as objects with these types of things, right? But that is no different than you could be the nicest person in the world, but then you go and you just get pissed off and decide to just like beat the fuck out of somebody on the street one day. You're going to jail, dude.
Going to jail.
You're fucking done.
Yeah.
Right? It's not okay, you know?
No, it's not.
So
at least he's being he's going to lose his business and everything. So, I mean, he's getting what's coming to him. But
and here's the thing, right? Like, kudos to I believe it was his own employees that kind of outed him with this. Yeah. Ousted him.
Yeah, and they all quit, I think, after that day, too.
Yeah. You know? So, you know, and for balanced trainers out there that are doing good work, right? And maybe newer in this industry and may see stuff like this, and it may scare them sometimes. Because I remember when I was early in this, like I would see videos like that, and not only would I be disgusted at what I'm seeing, but it would terrify me from the standpoint of like, oh my God, like what if, like some of the thing, like what if something I was doing was taken out of context and people thought it was horrible and this and that, and thought about it. It gets easy to get into that headspace with this kind of stuff, right? But as long as you know your intentions are good, and as long as you can always have a true self-dialogue with yourself about making sure that the things you are doing are always appropriate no matter what, you will not find yourself in that situation.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
It's when you get too egotistical with those types of things and you start thinking that you could fucking get away with everything and you're king shit and you start viewing these things differently, that's where the problems start to come into play. Right? Yep. But this stuff doesn't just happen overnight.
No.
Yeah. Somebody like this doesn't just get created like this. They don't go from being this perfect, caring, loving animal enthusiast.
Yeah.
Enthusiast, whatever, to suddenly just a piece of shit abusive monster.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't happen that way.
No.
Right? And, you could tell it in the people that you're working with as well. Right? You could see those signs that would lead to that in people. Right?
Yep.
It's our responsibility as balanced dog trainers to check each other with that kind of stuff. I'm not saying go around and, try to catch people in the act and videotape them with things. But like, I know in my case, right? Like I am held to an even higher standard at Miracle with these types of things because I have people that are here to learn from me, and if I do something like that one time, or I do something less extreme than that one time.
Yeah.
How is anybody supposed to ever trust anything that I've told them ever?
They won't.
I have to hold myself to that standard to hold everybody else to that standard.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure if this guy, this is where the delusion comes into play with some of these people, right? If that guy, I'm sure, saw any of his employees do something like that, they'd be fired immediately.
Oh, yeah.
But because he's king shit in his fucking suit, he thinks he can come in like a hot shot and just fucking do it and not have any repercussions.
That's true, yeah.
Bullshit,
Yeah, it is.
So, ending on a nice dark note for you guys. Here's the thing. If there's one lesson to be learned from all this kind of stuff, it's just that we have to continue to hold ourselves to higher standards. That's it.
Yeah.
Accept that responsibility of being what you want the industry to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So.
Summed it up well.
We're going to wrap that up on that.
All right.
Doobie, you got anything last to throw in here?
No. It's been a wild year, though. Glad we got through it. We stuck to our guns.
Bam! I'm pleased. I think it's been good. I'm excited for what the future has to hold.
Yes, sir.
Ending on 420.
Oh, dang.
Blaze up.
Blaze.
Just kidding. Neither Joshua or myself smoke weed, so.
No, we do not.
All right, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next podcast for Season 2 of the David the Dog Trainer podcast.
Season 2.
Until then, set some goals.
Yep.
Be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Love the fucking animals you're working with and cherish your opportunity to do this every single day.
Boom.
And keep staying on the path.
Yes. The path.
That's it.
Happy New Year.
All right, guys.